Wilfred Wilf Wooler. Wilfred Wilf Wooler earns his first cap for Wales in 1933 at just 18 years old, stepping onto the field during a time when rugby remained strictly amateur and schoolboy traditions dominate playstyles. Despite his youth, he stands out immediately for his sharp tactical mind and leadership qualities, eventually captaining not only the Welsh national side but also Glamorgan in county rugby. His selection comes at a time when Welsh rugby struggles for consistency, and Wooler's ability to manage pressure makes him a steadying presence in a turbulent lineup. Outside the rugby pitch, Wooler juggles an elite-level cricket career, appearing in over 400 first-class matches, and captaining Glamorgan to a county championship title in 1948. His precision as a fly half mirrors his cricketing discipline. He becomes known for pinpoint drop goals and clinical kicking under pressure. He once claimed practicing drop kicks in socks to hone accuracy without over-relying on strength. Wooler never plays in a World Cup rugby union, won't introduce the competition until decades after his retirement, but his influence sets a tone for Welsh fly halves for generations. By the time he retires from international rugby, his blend of athletic versatility and leadership leaves a model that future tens in Wales will try to follow. The search for that same on-field composure and control continues with Jack Kyle in Ireland. Jack Kyle. Jack Kyle earns 46 caps for Ireland between 1947 and 1958, scoring 7 tries during a period when tries are far less frequent and substitutions non-existent. In 1948, he becomes the central figure in Ireland's first ever Grand Slam, steering a side that finishes the Five Nations unbeaten with wins over France, England, Scotland, and Wales. Because of his command of tempo and spatial awareness traits not yet common in mid-century rugby, he quickly earns the nickname the Genius of Belfast from both press and peers. Unlike many players of his era, Kyle remains ever present in the Irish lineup. For more than a decade, never once dropped by selectors across 46 appearances. His style contrasts with the era's norm instead of brute force kicking. Kyle relies on deft movement and calm distribution under pressure. He's later cited by Barry John as one of the few players he truly admired. After retiring from rugby, Kyle pursues a full-time medical career in Zambia, serving as a surgeon in under-resourced hospitals for decades, his sporting reputation quietly fading in his own lifetime. But among Ireland fans, Kyle's impact is permanent. He's the standard by which every Irish fly half is judged for the next 60 years. That legacy, rooted in consistency and calm, forms the template for the flashier, more media-heavy career of Barry John. Barry John. Barry John earns the nickname the King during a stretch of unprecedented Welsh dominance, cementing his legacy with just 25 international caps between 1966 and 1972. He scores 90 points across those appearances, an era when a single test might finish with fewer than 15 points total, and becomes the sport's most talked-about fly half after a historic British and Irish Lions tour to New Zealand in 1971. In 5 test matches against the All Blacks, John racks up 30 points and guides the Lions to a 2-1 series victory, with 2 draws, still the only Lions win in New Zealand to date. His playing style breaks from the era's norm. Rather than booting for territory or grinding out forward possession, John relies on instinct acceleration and feints that freeze defenders in place. He's once described as running without any visible effort. That elusive quality makes him a media sensation in Wales and beyond, but it also becomes his undoing. At just 27 years old, John retires from all rugby in 1972, citing relentless public scrutiny and emotional fatigue. His early departure stuns the rugby world and leaves a vacuum at fly half for Wales throughout the rest of the decade. John's brief, brilliant career sets the benchmark for flash and control at the 10 position, and his departure opens the door for Phil Bennett to inherit both the jersey and the spotlight. Phil Bennett. Phil Bennett enters the global spotlight in 1973 with a sidestep inside his own 22, launching the move that becomes the most replayed try in rugby history. The Barbarians' 23-11 win over New Zealand at Cardiff Arms Park features Gareth Edwards finishing the score, but Bennett's footwork triggers the move and cements his reputation as the most elusive fly half of his generation. At a time when rigid forward play dominates test matches, Bennett's unpredictability and acceleration forced defenses to break their shape early. Across 29 caps for Wales between 1969 and 1978, Bennett scores 166 points, an era when scoring is mostly left to place kickers and opportunities are scarce. He captains the British and Irish Lions during their 1977 tour to New Zealand, the last series before the game professionalizes, leading a side that wins one of 4 tests but stays competitive through tactical kicking and possession control. At club level, Bennett becomes synonymous with Llanelli RFC, playing his entire domestic career there and helping defeat the All Blacks 9-3 in 1972. His sidestep, often imitated, becomes a coaching reference point for fly-half footwork. As Bennett retires in 1978, Wales searches for a replacement to replicate both his spatial control and his late-game composure. That void pulls attention toward the Southern Hemisphere, where Hugo Porta quietly transforms Argentina's game. Hugo Porta earns 58 caps for Argentina across a 19-year test career from 1971 to 1990. Anchoring the Pumas during a period when South American rugby remains largely isolated from the global stage. At a time when most Tier 1 nations face each other annually, Argentina plays sporadically, sometimes just 2 or 3 tests per year. So Porta carries added pressure to produce against limited opposition. In 1981, he scores all 21 points in a 21-21 draw, with England and Buenos Aires becoming the first Argentine player to outscore a major Northern Hemisphere side single-handedly. He repeats the feat in 1985, landing 3 drop goals against the All Blacks. In a 21-21 draw, still Argentina's best result against New Zealand until their first test win in 2020. Unlike many contemporaries who specialize early, Porta develops as a teenager, playing both rugby and association football, often switching between clubs on weekends. He once claimed soccer sharpens his kicking angles and tight backlines. After retiring, he's named Argentina's ambassador to South Africa in 1991, a rare case of a former fly-half moving directly into diplomatic service. His international stat line, 58 caps, 90 total points, and 28 drop goals, remains a national benchmark until the professional era. The next player to challenge those records is Michael Linna, whose structured game aligns with Australia's turn towards scientific backline play. Naas Botha plays 28 tests for South Africa between 1980 and 1992, scoring 312 points in a period when international fixtures are sparse due to apartheid-era sporting bans. With South Africa excluded from the first 2 Rugby World Cups, Botha's test appearances are mostly confined to one-off matches against invitational sides or rebel tours, meaning he averages just over 2 tests per year across a decade. Despite the limited exposure, his kicking accuracy and field control earn him a reputation as the best tactical fly-half of his generation. In one match against the South American Jaguars in 1982, he lands 5 penalties and a drop goal, accounting for all of South Africa's points in a 21-12 win. At the domestic level, Botha dominates the Currie Cup, with Northern Transvaal winning 9 titles and taking MVP honors in the 1987 final. He plays as a dual-threat fly-half and kicker, often setting up territorial advantages before converting them himself. He's one of the last players to rely almost exclusively on the drop goal as a primary scoring tool. Late in his career, Botha experiments with overseas play, joining the Dallas Harlequins in the United States, and promoting rugby to a growing American audience. His club appearances in Texas remain brief but symbolic, marking one of the first instances of a high-profile Springbok crossing into the American market. When South Africa returns to international competition in the early 1990s, Botha retires before the 1995 World Cup, missing the Springboks' title run. His methodical style, however, influences the next generation of South African 10s, leading directly into the structured play of Joel Stransky. Michael Linna. Michael Linna scores 901 points for Australia across 72 caps from 1984 to 1995, holding the national record until Matt Jeteau surpasses it in the 2000s. His accuracy from the tee, whether off a tee or a drop, anchors Australia's evolving game during a transition from flair to structure. In the 1991 Rugby World Cup, he totals 38 points across 6 matches, including 15 in the semi-final against New Zealand and a flawless kicking display in the final against England. Lynagh finishes that tournament with a 100% conversion rate inside the opposition 22. As Australia adjusts to the tactical demands of the professional era, Lynagh adapts his role. Initially a pure fly half, he shifts to inside center in the early 90s to accommodate emerging talent like Tim Horan and to extend his own career. He later attributes that change to a desire to keep directing traffic while handling less frontline pressure. Despite the positional adjustment, he continues to captain the Wallabies, guiding them through a critical development phase before retiring after the 1995 World Cup. Lynagh's technical kicking and mental poise shape Australia's approach for the next decade, laying a foundation for the rise of Stephen Larkham. Rob Andrew. Rob Andrew earned 70 caps for England between 1985 and 1997, anchoring the national team through a full decade of structural changes, from amateur tours to the early days of professional rugby. Standing 5'10" and weighing 178 pounds, he lacks the visual presence of larger contemporary 10s, but his game emphasizes control over chaos. Andrew is not a playmaker in the style of Barry John or Michael Lynagh. Instead, he focuses on structured possession territory and precise kicking. He finishes his international career with 396 points, including 11 drop goals and 81 penalties, many of them in tight, low-scoring matches. In the 1990 Rugby World Cup quarterfinal, Andrew nails a late drop goal to eliminate Australia 25-22 in Cape Town, a victory that sends England to the semi-finals and cements his reputation as a clutch operator under pressure. He gains the nickname Squeaky from teammates due to his high-pitched voice, but on the pitch he commands respect for consistency and strategy. A dual-sport athlete, Andrew earns blues in both rugby and cricket at Oxford, later describing the mental discipline of first-class cricket as key to his decision-making under pressure. He once quips that batting against West Indian fast bowlers makes facing the All Blacks seem manageable. As England transitions into the professional era in 1996, Andrew's conservative style falls out of favor, but his influence lingers in the kicking-first blueprint that Jonny Wilkinson will refine and weaponize. Diego Dominguez. Diego Dominguez records 110 points for Italy across 74 caps from 1991 to 2003, becoming just the 5th player in Test history to break the 1,000-point mark. Born in Cordoba, Argentina, he qualifies to represent Italy through ancestry and makes his debut after first earning 2 caps for Los Pumas in 1989. His switch to the Azzurri coincides with Italy's push for Tier 1 recognition, and Dominguez becomes the central figure in that campaign, averaging 13.6 points per test over 12 years. In a 1997 win over Scotland, he scores 29 of Italy's 40 total points, landing every kick from every angle. Unlike high-arc place kickers of the era, Dominguez develops a low-trajectory style built for quick execution and minimal wind drift, often converting from beyond 40 meters with under 2 seconds of setup. His club record mirrors his test success. He wins 4 Italian championships with Milan and later joins Stade Francais, helping them claim the French top 14 title in 1998. Teammates recall his obsession with T-angles and foot placement during midweek sessions. By the time Italy enters the Six Nations in 2000, Dominguez is both captain and primary scoring threat, keeping Italy competitive in multiple early fixtures through kicking alone. He retires from international play in 2003, just before Italy stabilizes in the Six Nations, but his role in getting them there is undisputed. The next to dominate with a boot-first game is Jonny Wilkinson, whose precision changes England's tactical identity. Stephen Larkham. Stephen Larkham earns 102 caps and scores 135 points for Australia between 1996 and 2007, anchoring the Wallabies through their most consistent run in the modern era. Originally developed as a fullback, Larkham shifts to fly half under coach Rod McQueen, who sees in him a field vision suited to managing tempo and width. Though his kicking game develops later, Larkham's early impact comes from spatial awareness. He creates breaks by manipulating second-line defenders, not by relying on long passes or brute force. During the 1999 Rugby World Cup, his control becomes decisive. In the semi-final against South Africa, Larkham plays through a knee injury and poor eyesight. He'd later admit he couldn't see the post clearly yet, nails a 48-meter drop goal in extra time to seal a 27-21 win. That kick becomes the turning point of the tournament, sending Australia to the final and into position to win their second World Cup. Larkham's kicking style remains unorthodox throughout his career, low trajectory, almost side-footed but effective under pressure. He retires after the 2007 World Cup, with 2 Tri-Nations titles, 2 Bledisloe Cups, and a career defined by composure in chaos. His blend of instinct and structure paves the way for a new generation of Wallaby 10s. But the next to redefine the position comes from the Northern Hemisphere, where Jonny Wilkinson engineers England's most successful era. Jonny Wilkinson. Jonny Wilkinson scores the winning drop goal in the final minute of extra time to give England a 2017 victory over Australia in the 2003 Rugby World Cup final, securing the country's first and only men's title. He finishes that tournament with 113 points in 6 matches, nearly half of England's total, and a 91% goal-kicking accuracy rate, the highest among all fly halves that year. His kicking precision and defensive commitment turn England's attack into a field position machine built around territorial gains and forced errors. By the end of 2003, Wilkinson has played 52 tests and amassed 817 points, making him the fastest player in history to reach that mark. From 2004 onward, Wilkinson's career is repeatedly disrupted by injury, shoulder reconstructions, groin tears, rib fractures, and nerve issues keep him off the field for almost 3 full years. Despite missing 47 England tests between 2004 and 2007, he still returns in time for the 2007 World Cup, leading England to another final, and scoring 12 points in a semi-final win over France. He later describes those years as physically harder than the tournament itself. After his international retirement in 2011, Wilkinson moves to Toulon in France, where he leads the club to back-to-back Heineken Cup titles in 2013 and 2014, scoring all of Toulon's points in the 2013 final. By the time he retires, Wilkinson has won 246 test points, second only to New Zealand's Dan Carter, and 36 drop goals, more than any player in history. Carter will spend the next decade expanding the role of the attacking 10, inside a dominant all-black system. Dan Carter scores 1,598 points in 112 test caps between 2003 and 2015, making him the highest-scoring player in international rugby history. His control of both open play and the kicking tee transforms New Zealand's fly-half role from reactive to commanding. In the second test against the British and Irish Lions in 2005, Carter delivers a 33-point performance, 2 tries, 4 conversions, and 5 penalties, guiding the All Blacks to a 48-18 win, and setting a national record for most points in a single test against the Lions. That match, broadcast globally, marks his shift from emerging talent to tactical cornerstone. Carter's style balances structured phase management with moments of attacking flair. Unlike predecessors who split roles with inside centers, Carter handles both distribution and play-calling responsibilities across multiple World Cup cycles. He misses most of the 2011 tournament due to a groin injury suffered days before the knockout stages, but returns in 2015 to steer the All Blacks to their 3rd title. In the final against Australia, he scores 19 points, including a 40-meter drop goal that halts a second-half Wallaby surge. That performance earns him World Rugby Player of the Year for the 3rd time, joining only Richie McCaw with that distinction. Carter retires from Test rugby with a 90.1% win rate, the highest among players with over 100 caps. The next dominant fly half to emerge from New Zealand is Beauden Barrett, but his scoring numbers and tactical precision still trail Carter's legacy. Ronan O'Gara. Ronan O'Gara earns 128 caps and scores 1,083 points for Ireland between 2000 and 2013, making him the nation's all-time top scorer at the time of his retirement. His average of 8.5 points per test underscores his reliability across both hemispheres and over multiple rule changes. During the 2009 Six Nations O'Gara, delivers the defining moment of his career, a 78th-minute drop goal against Wales in Cardiff, to seal a 17-15 victory and complete Ireland's first Grand Slam since 1948. He finishes that tournament with 56 points and a kicking accuracy rate of 85%, the highest among Northern Hemisphere fly halves that year. At club level, O'Gara is the heartbeat of Munster's tactical identity, guiding them to Heineken Cup titles in 2006 and 2008, while scoring 365 points in the competition, still the most by any player in tournament history. Known for his composure in high-stakes situations, he consistently chooses drop goals or territory kicks when Munster lacks attacking momentum. Teammates describe him as unshakable even in rain-soaked knockout matches. After retirement, O'Gara transitions to coaching and leads La Rochelle to back-to-back European Champions Cup finals, winning the title in 2022 with a late comeback over Leinster. His precision and game management set the standard for Irish fly halves in the professional era, paving the way for Jonathan Sexton's emergence as his long-term successor, Morné Stein. Morné Stein scores 736 points in 68 test appearances for South Africa between 2009 and 2021, becoming the second highest Springbok scorer, behind only Percy Montgomery. He averages 10.8 points per test during his first 3 years, a stretch that includes 2 Tri-Nations titles and a 2009 British and Irish Lions Series win. In that series, Stein kicks all 21 of South Africa's points in the second test at Loftus Versfeld, including a 53-meter penalty in the 78th minute to clinch the match 20-25 and seal the series. That kick, launched from beyond halfway, remains one of the most replayed moments in post-apartheid Springbok rugby. Stein's value lies in his consistency under pressure. He kicks at an 86% success rate from 2009 to 2012, including a flawless run of 35 consecutive goal attempts converted between late 2010 and early 2011. Opposing coaches often cite Stein's predictability not as a weakness but as a threat they can't disrupt. He remains the Springboks' first-choice fly half through the 2011 World Cup and returns a decade later to kick the series-winning penalty in the final test of the 2021 Lions Tour, once again at Loftus, age 37. His composure from the tee and durability across 12 seasons cements his place among South Africa's most reliable tactical kickers. The next transformative figure in the fly half jersey arrives in the form of Handré Pollard, who will inherit both Stein's role and his responsibilities under pressure. Quade Cooper. Quade Cooper makes his Wallabies debut at 20 years old in 2008, entering as a raw but gifted playmaker with an attacking style rarely seen at test level. Across 75 caps through 2023, he scores 154 points, but is remembered less for totals than for moments no-look passes, inside flicks behind the back offloads that defy phase structure and regularly open gaps. In the 2010 Tri-Nations, Cooper starts all 6 tests and helps Australia post 30 or more points 3 times, including a 41-39 thriller against South Africa, where his crossfield kicking becomes a second offensive system. In 2011, Cooper tears his ACL during the Rugby World Cup third-place playoff, forcing a 9-month recovery that alters both his explosiveness and status. After returning in 2012, he faces inconsistent selection under Robbie Deans with questions around his defense and discipline. At his lowest, he spends a full year out of the national squad, despite strong Super Rugby form. A full comeback doesn't arrive until August 2021, when Cooper, at 33 and 6 years removed from a test start, kicks the match-winning penalty against South Africa to claim a 28-26 Bledisloe victory. His blend of flair and volatility keeps him in and out of favor, but Cooper's longevity and late career resurgence mark one of the Wallabies' most dramatic player arcs. The next generational talent to emerge would be Bernard Foley, whose style offers a more controlled but less explosive version of the 10 jersey. Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell makes his England debut in 2012 at age 20 and becomes the national team's first-choice fly half by 2014, eventually shifting between 10 and 12 based on squad needs. Across more than a decade of Test rugby, he accumulates over 200 points for England and the British and Irish Lions, becoming only the second Englishman, after Jonny Wilkinson, to reach that total. He records 18 points in the 2019 Rugby World Cup semi-final win over New Zealand, and captains England in the final against South Africa, a 32-12 loss that still marks the team's deepest run in 16 years. His kicking average hovers between 82% and 87% across tournament play, matching top-tier international standards. Farrell's style polarizes fans and analysts. He's praised for leadership and defensive commitment, yet repeatedly fined and cited for high tackles under evolving safety laws. His upright tackling technique draws scrutiny after World Rugby begins enforcing stricter head contact protocols post-2019. Despite that, Farrell remains England's captain through the 2023 and 2024 seasons, steering a transitional squad through retirements, injuries, and coaching changes. By 2025, he becomes the most capped England back in history, surpassing Ben Youngs and Jason Leonard with 118 appearances. Farrell's longevity and adaptability keep him central to England's identity across 2 World Cup cycles, but his statistical shadow still traces back to Wilkinson. The next challenge is balancing legacy with renewal and finding who eventually replaces Farrell in the number 10 shirt. Richie Mo'unga. Richie Mo'unga debuts for the All Blacks in 2018 after leading the Crusaders to back-to-back Super Rugby titles and finishing the season as the league's top point scorer with 170. Over the next 5 years, he wins 7 Super Rugby titles with the Crusaders, 3 under the original format and 4 in Super Rugby Aotearoa, and Pacific, averaging 10.2 points per match across 112 appearances. His blend of calm decision-making and sudden acceleration allows him to control both tempo and territory, often shifting from first receiver to support runner within the same phase sequence. He scores 436 points in 44 tests by 2023, including a 25-point haul in a Rugby Championship win over Australia. Mo'unga becomes the All Blacks full-time starter at 10, following the 2019 World Cup, displacing Beauden Barrett to fullback in a tactical reshuffle that divides fans but stabilizes the team's midfield structure. He kicks at 87% accuracy across 2020 and 2021, and ranks first in line break assists among all starting 10s during the 2022 season. Critics note that while his game flourishes in Super Rugby, it often flattens in high-pressure test settings. In late 2023, Mo'unga announces a move to Toshiba Brave Lupus in Japan, triggering a full rebuild of the All Blacks backline and leaving a vacancy at fly half ahead of the 2024 campaign. His departure raises questions about succession planning in New Zealand rugby, especially as Damian McKenzie and Stephen Perofeta compete for test minutes. The next World Cup cycle begins without Mo'unga's control at 10, a rare moment of structural uncertainty for the All Blacks. Finn Russell. Finn Russell debuts for Scotland in 2014 and quickly becomes their most creative fly half since Gregor Townsend. By 2023, he earns 75 caps and scores over 470 points, but raw numbers only tell part of the story. Russell's style centers on unstructured chaos, double pump offloads, flat skip passes inside his own 22, and blind crossfield kicks that land with improbable precision. In the 2018 Calcutta Cup, he engineers a 25-13 upset over England by creating 2 tries off broken play and kicking 10 points himself. His unpredictability becomes Scotland's weapon of choice, especially as structured attacks struggle against Tier 1 defenses. The flair, though, comes with tension. Russell is dropped from the 20x20 Six Nations squad after a reported disagreement with head coach Gregor Townsend over discipline and team protocol. He misses the entire tournament as Scotland post middling results, leading to a public reconciliation ahead of the Autumn Nations series. When he returns in 2021, he delivers 18 points in a 27-23 win over France, their first in Paris since 1999. By 2023, he becomes the team's focal point again, combining flash with a matured control of game tempo and territorial pressure. Russell's presence revitalizes Scotland's attacking identity and helps them climb to 5th in the World Rugby rankings for the first time. His continued form forces coaches to build around his tempo, not against it, as the 2024 Six Nations approaches. Romain Ntamack. Romain Ntamack debuts for France in February 2019 at age 19, becoming the youngest fly half to start a Six Nations match since 2005. He posts 44 points in his first full campaign and retains the number 10 shirt through the 2019 Rugby World Cup, guiding France to a narrow quarter-final loss to Wales. By 2022, Ntamack is the tactical core of a French side that sweeps all 5 matches of the Six Nations to claim their first Grand Slam in 12 years. He averages 10.6 points per match during that campaign, including 14 against Ireland, in a pivotal 30-24 win in Paris. His lineage strengthens the spotlight. Ntamack is the son of Émile Ntamack, a former French international with 46 caps and a 1999 World Cup final appearance. Despite that pressure, Romain develops into a more restrained and structured version of French fly-half play, often deferring to Antoine Dupont at the base, but dictating shape and tempo in multi-phase sequences. Analysts note his composure mirrors Johnny Sexton more than Frédéric Michalak. In August 2023, a torn ACL during a World Cup warm-up match against Scotland rules him out of the tournament on home soil. Arguably the peak moment of his career trajectory, his absence forces France to reconfigure its attacking structure around Thomas Ramos and Mathieu Jalibert, both of whom offered different tempos and defensive profiles. The injury pauses but doesn't derail Ntamack's arc as the next long-term organizer in the French midfield. Marcus Smith. Marcus Smith debuts for England in July 2021 at age 22, following a breakout season in which he scores 286 points for Harlequins and leads them to a dramatic Premiership title. In the semi-final against Bristol, he helps overturn a 28-point deficit, the largest in league playoff history, and kicks 23 points in a 43-36 final win over Exeter. Those performances earn him fast-track selection for the British and Irish Lions, where he starts the tour match against the Stormers just 3 weeks after his England debut. Analysts compare his unpredictability and attacking flair to Carlos Spencer, citing his lateral footwork and flatline distribution as central to a new wave of English attacking structure. Smith's rise creates a selection dilemma. Owen Farrell, the established 10 with 100-plus caps, shifts to inside center, or exits the lineup entirely depending on strategy. From 2022 through 2024, England alternate between the two playmakers, occasionally deploying them together in dual distributor setups. Smith's defensive metrics particularly tackle completion rate trail Farrell's, but his line break assists outpace all other English backs during this stretch. By the 2023 Rugby World Cup, he becomes a situational starter, often coming off the bench to change pace late in matches. Still just 25 by mid-2024, Smith remains central to England's long-term plans, especially after Farrell announces a sabbatical from international duty. The jersey is now his to lose, with Steve Borthwick's system adapting to fit Smith's tempo rather than containing it.